Hello, everyone, and welcome to my second book critique. This week I decided to focus on picture books, but before I get started, I'd like to mention that some of the books that I chose wouldn't necessarily be shelved as a picture book in the library. However, all of them had very vibrant and meticulously drawn illustrations, so that's why I decided to choose them for this week. So let's get started. The first book that I read is called Bread is for Eating by David and Ellis Gershader. It's a Reading Rainbow book, and it has a reading level of about grades 1 to 2. I chose this book because it does have a lot of very vibrant images in it, and it focuses on Guatemalan folk art in the illustrations, and they're very vibrant paintings. So it was a very picturesque book to read. But just to sum up, the book does focus on bread and the fact that many different cultures eat bread in many different forms, but it all starts from the same seed and grows into the same wheat and then is turned into grain and then is turned into bread. So it's kind of a bringing together of different cultures. This book is bilingual a little bit. It does have a Spanish song that's repeated and has a few Spanish words. I really enjoyed reading it. The second book I read this week is called Ballet for Martha, Making Appalachian Spring. This book won the Robert F. Seibert Honor Book Award in 2011. It's written by Jan Greenberg and Sandra Jordan and has a reading level of grades 3 to 4. This book is essentially based on the actual making of this ballet. It focuses on Martha Graham, the choreographer, Aaron Copland, the American composer, and Isamu Noguchi, the artist, sculptor, and craftsman. And it takes you in the step-by-step in the making of the ballet from the very beginnings of Martha being criticized as a dancer to the actual performance on October 30th, 1944 at the Library of Congress. I really enjoyed reading that book. The third book that I read was called Mama Don't Allow by Thatcher Hurd. This is a Reading Rainbow book, and it has a reading level of preschool to third grade. This book focuses on Miles the possum, who gets a new saxophone, and his mother isn't too happy about all the noise in the house, so she tells him to go play somewhere else. So he makes a few friends and forms the Swamp Band, who plays at the Alligators Ball. Like I said, it's a picture book, and it has very vibrant images in it, and that's why I chose it this week. The fourth book that I read was called The Paperboy by Dave Pilkey. It has a reading level of about second grade, and it is a Caldecott honor book. This book focuses on a little boy and his dog who have a paper route in the morning. When they get up, everybody's asleep, but when they come back, everybody's getting up for the day and he's going to sleep. And it kind of focuses on the responsibility of the boy. The illustrations in the book are watercolor, and that was a really interesting illustration to see in a children's book. So I really enjoyed reading all four of those books. But my favorite book of the week was The Spider and the Fly. And this book is based on a poem written by Mary Howitt, and it was originally published in 1829. It is a Caldecott Honor book in 2003. It was illustrated and then rewritten by Tony DiTerlizzi in 2003. It's a picture book. It's subject as a fable, and it has a reading level of grades 1 to 6. And this book focuses on a spider who tries to lure a fly into his parlor to eat her. And what I love about this book is the opening line, which is, "Will you walk into my parlor?" said the spider to the fly. And I focused on the "will you walk into my parlor" part for my lesson because to me that could stand alone and be a 6-word story. So to get into my lesson, first lesson would be a movie poster for an 8th grade class. And so first the students would read The Spider and the Fly during a unit on short stories, specifically 6-word stories. After reading the text, the students would be asked about the illustrations and how they resemble a 1930s black and white film. Then we'll spend a brief portion of the actual unit talking about why certain literature sees the silver screen and why some doesn't. We'll discuss and watch clips and films in comparison to the text that we're reading. But for this particular lesson, the focus is, if you were going to turn the book into a movie, what would the poster look like and what would the tagline of the film be? We all know that films have a very specific tagline that draws you into seeing it. However, the tagline of the film must be an original 6-word story that leaves plenty of room for interpretation and wonder. The students will use a poster making site called Canva, which I was recently introduced to during Children's Lit this week. And each student will have to present their poster to the class explaining why they designed it in that way in the first place. And then after the posters have been created, students will print them out and I will hang them on the wall for reference throughout the year so we can see each other's work. So I actually made a poster using Canva. I made it very simple and kind of spooky with the spider coming out of the corner. But my tagline is, the 6-word story is, warning, be wary of the web, which to me speaks to the theme of the book, which is that throughout life you're going to come across schemers or people that are going to try and trick you and bring them into their web and trap you, sort of. So the book kind of speaks to knowing where you are and what your surroundings are and being aware that some people are going to be like that in life. So I really enjoyed making that. And then on Canva, there's different elements that you can add, and I used the poster making, and it was really fun. My second lesson was a tell your own story lesson, also for 8th grade. This would include all 5 picture books, and so we would read all 5 during a specific picture book lesson in 8th grade. But while reading, students would have to take note of detailed images portrayed on the pages. And then after all 5 books have been read, students will pick just one image from each book in the aim of threading them together in some way to create an original story. Now, after looking at these 5 books I've picked, you may think, oh, that's not possible, but I did it. Each image will have at least 3 sentences of narrative to accompany it to guide the story along. And in this narrative, students would have to develop a character a little bit, have some dialogue, have some literary language, and have some sort of conflict that doesn't have to be very fleshed out, but it would be there. But the tricky part of the lesson is that each original story can only be 5 images long. That was the hard part, let me tell you. The images will be printed out and bound together in class after the students have added the text. These pages can also be created in Canva, which is what I used. And once each student has finished their story, we will construct a literature circle, and each student will read their book aloud to class. Afterward, there will be time for questions. These presentations would take the course of a week or 2, depending on class size. So here's my story. I did use Canva, and I did use the poster tab on the side, and I created it all in one setting. But when you go to download it, you download it page by page as like a JPEG image or whatever you want to download it as onto your computer. And then you can string it together in one document, print it out that way, however you want to do it. But I did have a lot of fun doing that. And I called mine Dance the Fear Away. And just to sum it up, I talk about a little boy who has a nightmare, and he talks to his mom, and his mom tells him her positive dream and how there may be some alligators from Mama Don't Lie in her dream that kind of tell her that dancing is the best medicine, and she relays that to her child. And so then he asks her, the next time I have a nightmare, will you dance the fear away with me? And that's kind of how I end it. And I had a lot of fun doing that. So the first image was from the paper boy. The second image was from Bread is for Eating. The third from the spider and the fly. The fourth from Ballet for Martha. And the fifth from Mama Don't Lie. Or Mama Don't Allow, excuse me. And it was just really fun creating this. And I think students would also have great fun making this in class and using these tools online. So that's all for my book critique. I did really enjoy picture books. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll